Welcome my viewer as I continue with the topic of loss and grief, part 2. Part 1, I talked about loss as separation of a loved one and also as a way of doing away with a valued or a loved one in someone's life. And as I concluded my session, I talked about the effects or the common grief reaction that take place from one person to another. And I talked about the physical reaction. I also talked about the feelings, that is the emotions of one person to the other. And I want to continue by speaking about the behavioral change and also the thoughts of a person who have lost or who have just received the bad news of losing a beloved one. When it comes to the issue of thoughts, thoughts, we have the confusion part of it. There are people even who converse. There are people who get into disbelief. They cannot comprehend and therefore they cannot believe the news that they receive. There are people who have got difficult in concentration such that they cannot be able to know what they were doing and what to concentrate in terms of the circumstances. There is preoccupation. You find someone is doing things more than they need to be done. And there is also hallucination. You start seeing things the way they are not. That's according to the brain, how the brain functions at that time. This is an effect and this is a common reaction. When it comes to the behavioral change, when someone goes to bed, they are not able to sleep, or they sleep and they sleep more than they are expected to sleep, and most of the times they stay awake until morning and even the second day and the third day. Other times it's about the loss of energy and not getting interested with any kind of an activity, even that which they love so much. That is some of the behavioral change that we are talking about. When I get back to the physical reaction or the physical grief reaction, we talked about numbness, we talked about tiredness, and we also talked about tightness of the body. You feel that you are stiff, you feel that you are very tight, there is heaviness of the throat. Sometimes you hear somebody cough and uncontrollably. Other times you get somebody has got a very heavy chest, dizziness and drowsiness of a kind. Others feel that their muscles are very tensed, and sometimes you find people get vulnerable of illnesses and diseases that they didn't have. Some of these are like hypertension, sugars strike very up, and that one alone can really tell that somebody has been affected, or this is a reaction of grief. And it doesn't mean that everybody who receives bad news, that's how it will affect them. But these are just some of the reaction of grief in somebody's life after losing a beloved one. And I want us to talk today about the factors that can affect grief. People grieve differently, grieving one person, and one of the factors is the age of the deceased. The age of the deceased will affect grief differently. For example, if the child was unborn child, we mourn the loss of a pregnancy, but we don't mourn the same when it comes to a child that is already born. When we mourn and grieve of an elderly person, that is a grandmother or great grandmother, the mourning, the grieving is also different because of the age. That is a factor that affects grief. Something else is the nature of death. The nature of death can be determined by whether this person was sick or not. Most of the cases or most of the scenarios whereby we find a sick person or somebody who has been admitted in the hospital for a long time or for a long period, that is when this person loses the battle, the grief reaction is different because of the nature of death. If this person, whether old or young, was hit by a running car or involved in an accident, that cause alone will affect the nature of grief and loss. The other thing that also affects is the gender. Sometimes female gender are mourned more than male gender. This is because of the law, the responsibility. For example, if it was a mother who had a single mother who had children, if this mother die, you expect that these children are going to be left without a parent. Maybe she was not even married, and therefore these children are going to suffer loss more than if they could have a father. Something else that affects grief is the customs and the religion beliefs. Every community have got their own beliefs. Every community have got their own customs, and these vary from one person or one community to another. And therefore people will mourn differently according to what they believe and according to their custom. If it's a Christian, for example, I am a Christian, I believe in the resurrection. Like now we have just finished observing the Holy Week, whereby we were remembering about the suffering of Jesus Christ. But he didn't only suffer, but he died and he resurrected. And because of that belief, I might not be far much affected than that other person who don't believe that Christ died for us, and therefore because of that there is the resurrection. We also have got the relationship between the relationship with the deceased. The relationship between that person and the deceased will also matter to the person. It is not everybody that people mourn, but you may find somebody who is not related by blood, but they had a very close relationship. It can be a boss and a boss and a junior, but they were very close as far as work was concerned. In work relationship, you can also find somebody that was working with another, and because of that close relationship, the person will mourn the person so dearly, even more than a relative. Something else is about personality and coping style. There are people who have got the same personality. There are people who cope with things so fast than others, and that will also affect the person. We say, or we note, that grief affects us emotionally, like what I'm talking about. I've talked about physical reaction. I also talked about cognitive and behavior, and also in social way. All those things all around there, we find that people are affected in one way or the other. Normal grief reaction, this is very normal and very common to so many people. I'll just mention some of the things that happen when we have a normal or common grief reaction. One, people feel like they are crazy. Crazy meaning that they are confused. They are not able to operate or to function normally. That is one. Number two, people have difficulties in concentration, and I also mentioned about it. People feel sad and depressed. It is something that really agitates and makes people angry when they receive bad news. And people also get, yes, I've talked about that. People also feel frustrated and misunderstood. They are not able to make a decision. and they tend to feel like the people who are surrounding them don't understand them at that very time of need. They also experience anxiety, nervousness, and fearless. They experience helplessness, and they also experience guilt at some point, and also they experience remorsefulness of a kind, and they lack energy and they lack motivation. They don't know who to approach. They don't know how to go about anything. They are just there. They are just confused, and they feel like they want to escape. They want to disappear from the place that they are in, and this can really make people feel traumatized when when they are dealing with loss. I also want to mention a few things about how to cope with grief. Every one of us, we can find ourselves grieving, and we are not able to cope with the grief. And these are some of the things that I will mention. Number one, you can try to approach or to reach out to a family member so that you can exchange notes. This one means when you are together, or when you are mourning, when you are holding one another, it is easier. The grief becomes bearable than when one is grieving alone. Number two, it is good to seek for counseling, professional counseling. You get a therapist who can take you through loss and grief sessions that you can be able to cope. The other thing, it is engaging in social activities as far as the loss and grief is concerned. If it is the prayers that are held, be part and parcel. You may not do much, but get to join the team that is doing that. If it is something that is being done, take a corrective responsibility in preparation, and this will help you to get to closure. The other thing is about eating healthy and good foods. When people are mourning, they tend to take drinks. They don't feel like eating. It is normal to feel that way, but it is good to eat healthy. Back in your mind, tell yourself that this is a time that you need to eat better even than any other time, so that it can help you able to cope with the grief. The other thing is about taking time to relax. There are people who, after receiving bad news, this is the time that they work so hard. They work tirelessly. They have no time to relax. They have no time to settle. You'll find that even after that person has been buried, you will not be able to overcome loss and grief because you didn't have time to relax, and you were not able to, your brain was not able to rest, and even your body was not able to rest. The other thing is to speak spiritual support, which can come out from pastors, come out from the Word of God, come out from music, listening to soft music that speaks about God and how we get comfort from God, how we can get our hope from God, and this will help. And also being patient with yourself. Don't be impatient. Don't judge yourself so harshly. Give yourself time and be patient with yourself, and also allow yourself to be. There are people who don't allow themselves to be. If it is a mother, a single mother, they will be strong for the children and they will not be strong for themselves. If it is a father, they will be strong for their wives, and the children, they will not be strong for themselves. It is good to allow yourself to feel the grief. Allow yourself to grieve as a person, not for others, and this will help you too. If you want to help, because people can help, like me, what I'm doing now, I'm trying to help somebody who could be going through loss and grief. If you want to help someone to cope with loss of a beloved one, be a good listener. Don't go and talk and talk. Don't go and ask questions. Don't go and start talking. Be a good listener. You can only engage this person if they are not talking, so that you may provoke them to speak that which they have inside them, and they bring it out. When they bring it out, that is a way of healing. So be a good listener. So talk less and listen more. Be available as much as you can. just to be there with the person. Another way that you can help someone that is experiencing grief, it is to ask about their loss. You ask them how they feel. And if you see they are not willing to talk, give them time, be patient with them. Make calls. If it is somebody who is a beloved one and they are not very near, you are not near them, make calls to follow up and to know how they are feeling on. Share your feelings with them, how you feel about their loss, and also just sit with them. Even if you're not going to do much, just sit with them, reassure them that you are there for them. Do not minimize grief. You know, there are some people who go to a person who is mourning a child and start telling them, don't worry, this is a child, you will get another one. This one means that you are minimizing the grief for this person. And as far as the person is concerned, this is a full loss. And therefore, don't minimize grief for the person who is grieving. And also, talk about your own loss. If you have lost a beloved one, maybe someone who is significant to you, and it is as per the person who have lost, maybe they have lost a child, you also lost yours, you can identify with them, and you can be able to encourage them using your own loss. The other thing is acknowledging the pain. Acknowledge the pain that this person is going through. For yourself, when you lost, you went through your pain, but this person has not started, or they have not processed their pain. So allow them to process their pain as you encourage them. Let them feel sad. Let them be, and don't latch. Don't try to make them as if there is nothing much that has happened. Allow them to be and help them, and this one will help them process their grief. Thank you so much for listening to me as we continue with this topic that is very perturbing, that is very disturbing, that is very unfriendly, but I want to believe that I'm helping somebody who is experiencing loss and grief of a loved one. May the Lord continue to encourage you. May the Lord continue to comfort you. May the Lord take away your anxiety, your pain, your stress, and I want to reassure you that it shall be well. May God bless you. May God do you good. And remember that forever we shall live to encourage one another. God bless you. God do you good. Bye. Thank you.